The doctor left about an hour ago. He didn't say it in so many words, but the way he wouldn't look me in the eye told me everything I needed to know. My name is Gerald. I am 90 years old, and tonight, for the first time in my life, I am terrified of the silence in this big, beautiful house. I realized this afternoon that I have spent 60 years building a kingdom, only to find myself sitting on a throne of dust, unable to remember the one thing that actually mattered. I found a small velvet box at the back of my desk drawer today while I was looking for my will. Inside wasn't a watch or a gold coin. It was a dried, crushed flower from a beach trip we took back in 1962. When I touched it, I didn't feel the warmth of the sun. I felt a cold, sharp ache of panic. I realized I couldn't remember the sound of Clara's laugh on that day. I remember exactly how much the hotel cost. I remember the work emails I sent from the lobby. But the woman sitting across from me, the love of my life, her voice is slipping through my fingers like water. Everything I thought was important feels like a trick I played on myself. If this story touches a part of you that feels a little too heavy tonight, please consider subscribing to stay with me. I don't have much time left to tell this, and I don't want these words to disappear with me. I grew up thinking that being a provider was the only way to love. My father worked at the docks until his hands were always swollen, and he died young with nothing but a tired heart. I promised myself I'd be different. I promised Clara the first I'd give her the world. I just didn't realize that the world is a very poor substitute for a husband who is actually home for dinner. I remember the night our daughter Sarah was born. I was in the waiting room, but I had a thick folder of work on my lap. I was calculating numbers for the company. I thought I was doing it for her. I thought every late night, every missed birthday, every time I said, "Not now, honey, daddy's busy," was a brick in a wall that would protect them. But you see, walls don't just keep the world out. They keep the people you love trapped on the other side. There was a Tuesday, I think it was a Tuesday, many years ago. Clara had dressed up. She'd made a special dinner that smelled like garlic and home. She asked me to just sit with her. No phones, no papers. I told her I had a big meeting that couldn't wait. I told her that once this deal closed, we'd have forever to relax. I saw a look in her eyes then, a tiny light going out. I didn't stop. I grabbed my briefcase and kissed her cheek, and I didn't realize I was kissing a ghost. If you've ever felt like you're running a race with no finish line, maybe leave a comment and tell me what you're running toward. I'd truly like to know if it feels worth it to you. By the time I was 50, I had the corner office. I had the car that made the neighbors look twice. I had the suit that felt like armor. I remember standing at the window of that office, looking down at the tiny people on the street, and feeling like I'd won the game of life. But when I went home, the house was too big. The echoes were too long. Sarah was 17 and looked at me like I was a polite stranger who just paid the bills. Clara was still there, always there, but she'd learned to live around me, like a tree growing around a fence. We went to fancy parties. We went to dinners where people toasted my success, and I'd smile and I'd hold her hand, but her hand felt small and cold. I didn't ask why. I was too tired from succeeding to ask why my wife's hand felt like a bird trying to fly away. I remember one specific evening in the garden. The sun was setting, that deep purple that makes everything look like a painting. Clara was fixing the roses. She looked so beautiful. I came out to tell her about a promotion. She just looked at me and said, "Gerald, when is it going to be enough? When do we get to just be together?" I laughed. I actually laughed. I told her, "Just 5 more years, Clara, then we'll travel, then we'll be together every day." Those 5 years became 10. Those 10 became 20. And then, one morning, the then arrived, but Clara didn't. She woke up, complained of a headache, and by noon she was gone. A brain aneurysm. Quick, they said. Merciful, they said. But it wasn't merciful for me. I was left in a house filled with expensive things and a forever that I had finally earned, only to find I had no one to spend it with. I sat in her sewing room for 3 days after the funeral. I found a diary she'd kept. There weren't many words about my achievements. There were pages about the way the light hit the kitchen floor. There were notes about the way Sarah smelled like rain when she came in from school. And there was one line that breaks me every time I breathe. She wrote, "I am surrounded by everything money can buy, and I have never been more lonely." If this is making you think of someone you haven't called in a while, maybe share this video with them. Or don't share it, just call them. That's enough. I am 90 now. My joints ache, and my memory is like a house with the lights flickering out. I look at my bank balance sometimes. It's a very high number. It's a number that represents thousands of hours I can never get back. Thousands of missed dinners. Thousands of moments I traded for a digit on a screen. I would give every single cent. I would give this big house and the fancy cars just to have that Tuesday back. The one with the garlic dinner. I would sit down. I would let the work fail. I would look at Clara and I would tell her that she was the only kingdom I ever wanted. I see young people now rushing past my window with their phones, looking so important. I want to open the window and scream. I want to tell them that the work will never love you back. The company won't sit by your bed when you're old. The legacy you're building is just a name on a building that people will walk past without looking up. My daughter Sarah comes to see me on Sundays. She's kind. But there is a distance between us that I built, brick by brick. I see her looking at her watch, thinking about her own work. I see the cycle starting again, and it's the greatest failure of my life. I found an old kite in the garage yesterday. I bought it for Sarah 30 years ago. I kept telling her, we'll fly it next weekend when the big project is done. But next weekend never came. Now, the kite is just dusty plastic. I sat on the floor and cried over that $5 kite, because that kite was the light and the work was just the shadow. I'm tired now. I didn't record this to be a teacher. I'm just a man who realized too late that I spent my life preparing to live, instead of actually living. I traded the now for a later that never came. Thank you for sitting with an old man in the dark. If you'd like to stay, I'd be happy if you'd subscribe. It makes the house feel a little less empty. I hope you find your enough today. I hope you stop working for just an hour and go find someone to hug. Tell them Gerald sent you. I'm going to close my eyes now. I'm going to try to find her in the silence. Good night.